Hey guys, welcome to my exjw life. I wanted to talk today about something I've touched on before, but I wanted to do a video exclusively devoted to this topic. And it's the topic of the dream that I had that literally was the final straw that pushed me off the Watchtower, so to speak. I had this dream when I was around 25 or 26. And that is when I first started to really question whether or not I thought this religion was true or not. So for a while before then, I started to think, what gives me the right to go and knock on someone's door and tell them that if you don't believe the way that I believe, that you're going to be destroyed? And I know a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses try to say that they don't teach that, but that isn't true. That may be something that we'll address a little bit later on in another video. But I didn't feel like it was my place to continue to do that. And so I started to really look at the religion and religion in general and think, what gives me the right to impose my beliefs on someone else? So I really started to want to walk away from the organization. Well, one night I had this dream, and I'm 45 now. This is the only dream I think I've ever had that after all this time, I still remember it like I had it last night. And so when the dream started, I was in my bed. I got out of bed and I just walked out of the front door of my home, right? And there were these two shadowy figures standing in my front yard that looked pretty much like the thumbnail, picture in the thumbnail. And they reached their hands out to me like this, right? And I looked at them and I said, I've been waiting for you. And I took both of their hands and we just flew up into space, right? So we're flying through all the clouds and we're getting higher and higher. And normally when I have a dream at that time, when I would have a dream about flying or something like that, the higher I would go, I would get real scared and I would start falling. And I wake up, which that means something else. But in this dream, the higher we went, I just kept looking and I wasn't scared at all. So we left the earth and we went into space, and there were all these colors, all these shapes. Everything was just swirling around me. And I was just looking at all these fractal patterns that were just everywhere. And I was flying through them. And I just kept going. We just kept going. And then there was this point of light. And then the point of light just got brighter and brighter and brighter. And it opened up. It's kind of like a transition in a movie when the light comes to the camera and it turns white and then it fades into another scene. That's pretty much exactly what happened. And when the scene came back, I was sitting in an auditorium. On the stage of the auditorium, 3 men walked out. The guy in the middle went to the microphone and he said, I know you guys have been waiting for God. He'll be with you in a moment. And then they just walked away. So I'm thinking, I gotta use the bathroom. So I get up and I walk out of the door to my right. And there's this huge library. So I'm walking through the library to try to find my way out. And all of the books on the shelves just start falling over. And then all the shelves started falling over. And then I started walking through the library, climbing on top of all these books. And the library was just a huge room. And all these bookshelves were just falling on top of each other. Just books, shelves. And I'm climbing over all these books, which I think were representative of all of the information that I had been studying with the Jehovah's Witnesses all this time, and I've been fighting my way through all this knowledge, all this information, and trying to decipher whether it was true or not. And it was such a struggle. I think in the dream, it represented the struggle that I was having with all this information that I was getting from all these books. Because as a Jehovah's Witness, most of us had these huge libraries of books. So as the books kept falling, I kept climbing and climbing, and I finally got on top of all the books and all the bookshelves, and I got to the end of the room, and there was a door. I went through the door, and there were all these rocks. It's a room filled with rocks. And it would seem like the room just opened up and it was just nothing but rocks and boulders. So I'm walking through this room, and then all of a sudden the rocks started falling down, just falling down all over each other and falling down near me. So I'm climbing over top of all these rocks as they're falling. It's like they're blocking my path. I'm keep going. These rocks are falling bigger and bigger. And I'm climbing over all these rocks, right? Almost as if it was saying something. You're trying to get somewhere, right? You're trying to get to reach an end, or you're trying to get away from where you were with all those books and all the information that was in those books. But it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, and they're going to try to stop you. And this is going to be an obstacle that's going to be in your way to get where you're trying to go, right? So I'm continuing to climb over all these rocks and all these boulders. I get to the top of all the rocks and boulders, climb over all of them, then there's another door. I open that door, and it's just ice everywhere. It's cold. I can feel all the cold in the room. There's this fog and boulders and glaciers of ice, just glaciers everywhere, right? So I walk through the room, and it's cold. It's cold. Probably, in my opinion, indicative of how it feels when you leave the organization. You're cold, you're lonely. It's cold out there in the world, man. So I went through this room, and all the ice starts falling down. Same as in the past room. So I'm climbing over all these glaciers, all this ice. I'm climbing, and I get to the end of that room, and there's a door. So I open that door, and there's this huge, long, black corridor. So I walk down the corridor. Seems like forever. This dream seemed like it lasted forever. So I kept walking. The light at the end of the corridor started getting brighter, and it opens up into a restaurant. I looked to my left, and there was a booth, and there were 3 men sitting at the booth. So I walk over to the 3 men, and the one in the center was glowing. And I just kind of looked at him, and he looked at me. Neither of us said anything. We just kind of looked at each other for a moment. And I said, "You're God, aren't you?" And he just nodded his head like that. And then I looked to my left, and there was one of the elders from the organization. His name was James Fletcher, and I could not stand him. I hated this dude. I looked at him, and he was standing there, and he said, "Keith, why are you leaving us?" And I looked back at God, and I asked him, "Why does my stomach hurt?" And he didn't say anything. He just looked at me. Now that part, I don't know, and I don't have any real idea of what that means. Maybe it was just talking about the pain that you have when you leave this organization, because we all know what we're up against by leaving. It's painful. It hurts. Maybe that's what that was. I didn't think of that until just then, but maybe that's what that was saying. So I looked back at the elder, and I said, "Get away from me." And he just vaporized. And I looked back at the God or the representative of God that was sitting there. And he looked at me and he said, Keith, it's not about your destination, it's about the journey. And then I just looked at him and I just started falling and I fell into the bed and I woke up. The next day, I had a talk with my wife at the time. And I said, I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. I said, I won't, persecute you or get in your way of being one. I just can't do it anymore. I just don't want to do it. And she said, okay. And that was that. I guess at that moment I became an unbelieving mate, something that we all have heard about several times in our journeys as Jehovah's Witnesses. But the only reason I really wanted to talk about this dream was I think all of us as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses have had a moment in time that was that moment where you said, okay, I need to leave. I need to leave this organization. And I think in life, in general, we have those moments, whether it's in religion, whether it's in employment, whether it's in relationships, romantic or familial, or just with friends. We have those moments where something says, you need to end this. This is done. You need to get out of this thing. And being a Jehovah's Witness, I was always trained to look at things without having my own best interest at heart. And that made it very difficult for me in the future to walk away from things. I had to learn again how to walk away from things, how to look at things with a discerning eye as opposed to looking at things through what I thought would be the eye of Jesus, which none of us have that eye anyway. But I think you know what I mean. It's as if being a Jehovah's Witness trains you to be very trusting, overly trusting, and give the benefit of the doubt instead of giving consideration to your doubt. So I think the point of this is to say, going forward, because my videos, I don't like to talk as much about just what the religion teaches, which I am going to do some of that because it's applicable to what I'm saying going forward. But taking those things and applying them in our lives after we leave. So I think the point is that dream was the thing that pushed me off the Watchtower. But it's very easy to climb back on that thing. So something can push you off, and it's not about your journey or your destination maybe just hitting the ground. It's about, okay, I'm off the Watchtower. Now I'm on this journey somewhere else. Now I can either take all the things that I learned while I was on that Watchtower and keep them with me, or I can let them all go and fight through all of the obstacles that are going to be in my way to get to this new life that I'm starting for myself. And I think that was the point of my dream. And I think that is the point of all of our journeys as XJWs, is to remember what we learned, but to stand on top of what we learned, because we can't forget it. You can't unlearn something. But we can stand on top of that information and keep pushing toward our new lives and our new destinations. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. And I hope it's something that can help all of all of us to pay more attention to the things that happen in our lives that tell us which way to go. Because I think we all have those rudders, and sometimes it points a certain way, and we're so used to going one way that when life's rudder kind of moves another direction and we're forced to go a different way, we fight against it. But I think we have to learn to look at those signs and say, okay, let me consider this because I may need to make a course correction. You know what I mean? So guys, thank you so much for supporting my channel. And I'm done ranting for the day, but I thought that was a very good thing to share. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Please stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Leave your comments. Let us all know if there's been a moment that you've had a dream or a thought or anything that happened that let you know, hey, it's time for me to leave this thing. Put it down in the comments. Thanks again, guys, for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one. All right. Peace.